All right, it looks like it's 7 o'clock and we have a quorum. I think everyone is here. We will go ahead and call this January 27th Albany Planning and Zoning Commission meeting to order. Roll call, please.
Yes, Commissioner Donaldson. Commissioner McLeod.
Yeah, here.
Commissioner Moman.
Here.
Commissioner Pilch.
Present.
Chair Waddy.
Present. Thank you. Item 3 on our agenda is ex parte communications. Do any members of the commission have any ex parte communications to disclose?
No.
No.
Okay. Seeing none, we will close item 3 and move on to item 4 on our agenda, which is the consent calendar. The consent calendar items are considered to be routine and will be enacted on by one motion. By approval of the consent calendar, the staff recommendations will be adopted unless otherwise modified by the commission. There will be no separate discussion of these items unless a member of the commission or a member of the public requests removal of one of these items from the consent calendar. So tonight we have 2 items on the consent calendar. First up, item 4-1. This is the Planning and Zoning Commission meeting minutes from January 13th. And item 4-2, Planning Application 20-067, Design Review for a 2-level addition at 1248 Portland. 2 notes on this item. Just first, the staff recommendation is that this on the agenda says to continue this matter to February 10th. However, due to the inclement weather and the inability to get story polls up in time, this item will actually need to be continued to the March 10th hearing. Also just worth me noting, I think I can still vote on this right now, but I will ultimately need to be recused on the discussion of that since I've got real property interest within 500 feet of that site. But I think for the continuance, I can go ahead and vote on that. With that, would anyone, Commissioner McLeod, did you have an item?
I also need to recuse myself on the 1248 Portland Avenue project since I live around the corner almost. Is that correct, Dan? I think I'm too close for that one.
I think that is correct.
Yeah.
So for the purposes of continuing this matter, I'd ask that those commissioners who are eligible to participate make the motion to continue, and Chair Waddy and Commissioner McLeod be recused on that action.
Okay, great. Thank you for that clarification. Then why don't we go ahead and first open it up, seeing no other comments from commissioners, why don't we go ahead and open it up, see if there's any public comment on either of these items? Chris, is there any public comment?
No, there's no public comment at the moment.
Okay, then on the consent calendar, then public comment is closed. And why don't we then take the 2 items separately since a couple of us have to recuse on the different items. Commissioner Donaldson, did you want to make a motion or did you have a comment?
I'll move approval of the minutes and I'll move approval of continuation of 1248 Portland as well.
Okay, and that would be a continuance to the March 10th date, correct?
March 10th, okay.
Okay, great. Then why don't we'll take the 2 items separately. Then on the motion for the minutes, we will move forward on that one first. So Commissioner McLeod.
Yes.
Commissioner Moman.
Yes.
Commissioner Pilch.
Yes, and I'll second it just for the record.
Oh, I'm sorry. Thank you. I missed that one. Commissioner Donaldson.
Yes.
And I vote yes as well. So that item passes 5-0. And on the second one, I will let somebody else second it and call the motion due to my recusal.
I can second that one as well.
I guess I can still go ahead and call the motion. I just will abstain from voting. So on that motion, Commissioner Moman.
Yes.
Commissioner Pilch.
Yes.
Commissioner Donaldson.
Yes.
That item for continuance passes 3-0 with Commissioner McLeod and myself recusing ourselves on that one. With that, we're moving right along. Then we're on to item 5 on our agenda, which is general public comment. General public comment is for members of the public who wish to address the commission on an item that is not otherwise agendized for tonight's discussion. Please note that each member of the public is limited to 3 minutes for their comment. Chris, why don't we go ahead and open it? Is there anyone who wishes to speak on public comment?
There is actually no one who wants to speak on public comment.
All right, then we will go ahead then and close public comment at this time, and we will move along to item 6 on our agenda. Item 6 on our agenda is discussion and possible action Action items. So we have one item this evening. So first up, we have item 6-1. This is planning application 20-068, a design review for a 2-level addition at 1028 Pomona Avenue. Do we have a staff presentation?
Yes, one moment. Let me just bring up the presentation. Thank you. Okay, great. Thank you. Once again, up for review tonight is planning application 20-068, design review and second story addition at 1028 Pomona Avenue. I'll give a brief presentation and happy to answer any questions afterwards. Some background on the property. The subject property is a 4,200 square foot lot with a 2-bedroom, 1-bathroom, 1,140 square foot house built in 1926. City records show the following work done to the property: a re-roof, home occupation permits, fireplace replacement, water heater replacement, pest controls, new construction of a new deck, and another re-roof. Here's the street view of the property as it sits today. You'll see the yellow house right here is the subject property. And here's a photo of the story poles that were installed earlier this week. It's important to note that if you pass by the site, you might have seen some of the story poles down due to the weather, but the applicant had submitted the photos when they were installed initially. Project requests. The applicant is seeking design review approval for a 701 square foot 2-level addition to accommodate 2 bedrooms and 1 bathroom. The project scope includes a new roof deck on top of the second story addition, a new wooden deck at the rear ground level of the home. The addition on top of the existing single story is proposed to be modern in appearance to juxtapose the existing Spanish revival style of the existing home. Altogether, this would result in a 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom, 1,841 square foot home with a maximum height of 28 feet. And here's the existing elevation of the home. And here's what's proposed. Exceptional design. Projects which exceed a 0.45 FAR are subject to exceptional design as reviewed by the Planning and Zoning Commission. Exceptional design treatments for this project include a modern exterior design on the 2-level addition, which includes fiber cement vertical and horizontal lap siding on the exterior of the addition, fiberglass casement windows proposed throughout the addition, a new ground floor deck, and a new rooftop deck on top of the second story addition with access via a new spiral staircase on the exterior of the home as well, wall mounted LED sconces, and landscaping improvements. Parking. There's an existing detached single car garage that is proposed to remain. 2 off-street parking spaces are provided in the existing detached garage and driveway. No additional off-street parking spaces are required under this project scope. Staff has not received any correspondence regarding this project proposal, and the project is categorically exempt from CEQA per section 15303. And recommendation, staff recommends that the Planning and Zoning Commission review and approve the proposed project subject to the findings and conditions of approval. And with that, staff is happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Thanks, Chris. Why don't we first go ahead and are there any questions for staff before we open it up for public comment?
I have a question.
Sure. Why don't we go Commissioner McLeod and then we'll go Commissioner Pilch.
Okay, just a quick question regarding roof decks. Can you refresh our memory on the requirements or restrictions, or what are the limitations? It's all the roof. Just tell me that the roof deck complies to all existing regulations.
Yes, the roof decks, we leave them to the commission to evaluate on a case-by-case basis. Effectively, the only standard is that if it fits within the height and building envelope, no setback encroachments, they're typically, that if they comply with that, then they're satisfactory. The commission, of course, has discretion in their review of what's proposed to require modifications if you so choose.
Okay. Commissioner Pilch?
I'm sorry, and I might have missed it as I was looking at my plans, but are we having a presentation by the applicant as well, or no?
Yes, the applicant wishes to conduct a brief presentation.
Yeah. So once we're done with staff questions for staff, we'll open it up to the sponsor and then for public comment.
Okay. The only question I have is why the rebuild of the bottom deck? But that if staff doesn't know, I can ask that of the applicant.
Okay. And then I also just had one question for staff on this. Looking at the plans, the proposed windows look like they're effectively flush with the new addition with the proposed window trim, but the conditions of approval note that there'll be a 2-inch recess. And I'm just wondering if you kind of talk through which is right. Are we going to make them change the window details to provide a 2-inch recess, or is the detail as shown what the actual look will look like?
So, yeah, you do have discretion to enforce the 2-inch recess requirement. In this particular application request, the homeowner is also the architect. So I'll leave it to her to explain the thinking behind the window design as part of the project.
Okay, but it is listed as a condition of approval, if I'm not mistaken, that it'll be a 2-inch recess. So that would take precedence over what's shown on the detail. If the project were to be approved with that standard condition of approval, the 2-inch recess would still have to be met. We have had some applications in the past where the project applicant seeks relief from the 2-inch requirement, and the commission has allowed that. Again, that's a case-by-case basis, just depending on the commission review. Okay, great. Thanks for that clarification. Any other questions for staff before we have a presentation from the sponsor? All right. With that, then, why don't we go ahead and have the project applicant give their presentation.
Okay. Terry, you can now speak. I'm going to bring up your supplemental documentation and share the screen as well.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Can you guys see us, or just the screen, right?
It's just the audio and the screen,
Okay,
yes.
got it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. First off, I want to thank everyone for taking the time out and doing the review for us and spending this evening, a few minutes. Let's see. I think I would like to just skip towards the back, Christopher, and just go to the supporting documents.
Is this the page you want with the 3D renders?
Maybe just to begin with the color renderings at the back.
Sure.
Thank you.
This is all we have in front of us. So I have this watercolor rendering and then the 3D rendering at the rear.
Oh, how interesting. I see page A3.0.
Yeah, Chris, we just see the elevations right now.
Oh, okay. Huh. One moment then. Sorry.
So when you do bring it up, the supporting documents basically attempts to show the massing of the second floor addition on top of the existing home. I think that's just fine against the context of the block. Not necessarily this color. I do admit that different screen colors, different color palettes on different software, fails me. But this is basically how our addition would sit in the context of our neighbors. The upper image shows the street view, and the lower image shows the view from the backyard. And there it shows much better the way the rooftop deck would sit. Is it possible to scroll one more page ahead? Right, and so these two side by side, so that's okay. The one on the right is just yet another view from the street level as you would walk along the sidewalk in front of our house. That's basically what you would see. It's set back in the second half of the house, essentially. So it's not right up against the front. Whereas, and then on the left side, the upper photo shows 1026, our immediate neighbor to the north or to our right when you're looking at our house. And then next to them is the orange house. That's also our neighbor. And those two were done in the late 80s. So ours is going to be set back from, I guess, their facades. If you go to one more ahead, that basically shows another house down the street from us further south. And we were kind of taking cues. And this is, they had a really good color, which I can see it's kind of washed out on the screen at this point, on my screen anyways. It's a bluish purplish color, which does a lot of things depending on the atmosphere. You know, the gable roof as well as the offset roof. And those were the kind of the cues I was taking from. I could answer the question about the relief at the windows, if that's okay.
Mm-hmm.
Sure. So it's fine. I totally agree with changing the window details to allow the 2-inch relief. That is part of the project approvals. I will do that.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, just the most important thing to me was maybe using the fiberglass technology to provide greater interior insulation and modulation with the environment. That was the only thing. And then I think as far as there was an item about the height issue as far as the roof is concerned, Christopher, if you go back to the last, maybe the last page. Yeah, so the top rail is what is hitting the 28 feet. In fact, in these ones, I had already cranked down the house by another foot. And so it falls below the 28-foot envelope. But essentially the peak of the roof, that ridge is well below the 28, and it's the rails, which I realize it looks very dark in the image because of the pen weight and the graphic quality, but essentially the guardrail would be very lacy in appearance. In any event, it doesn't hit the 28 feet.
Okay,
And
thanks. Does that, if that concludes your presentation, maybe we'll just open it up to commissioners to see if any commissioners have questions for you. So please go ahead and stay on the line.
Sure.
Commissioner Donaldson?
Yes, I have a question. I wanted to ask about a couple of things about colors. First of all, the color of the spiral staircase and the railing on the roof deck. Is that going to be like a stainless steel, or will it be a more a brownish color, or what do you have to say? What can you tell us about that?
I'm hoping for a matte stainless, and then that would just be for the railing. And then at the rooftop deck, I'm hoping to install pickets with cables so that it becomes as airy and light as possible.
Okay.
And then as far as the spiral stairs is concerned, I know I did not include it in the backyard image there because graphically it was just so heavy and black lined, but that it would essentially be a matte stainless steel as well and very lacy.
Okay, good.
Oh, there was one other question about why the rebuild of the bottom deck, I think.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Yes.
So it is, when we first moved in November, in the fall of 2016, it was explained to us that the deck needed replacing. And we've been hoping to do this addition for so long and just kind of saving up money and didn't do anything. We've been really careful about maintaining as best we could. And so now it really has to go.
But it does look like you'll be removing a tree in the process?
Because the tree, I don't know if it's possible to bring up the site plan. The tree, the current deck takes a notch around the tree. and it's not allowing a flattened, like a orthogonal area there. And it is our hope to replant a different tree, although I will have to consult my neighbors. I will be mindful, we will be mindful of that. We were just surprised at the fact that our neighbors a few doors down is having a rodent issue. And it is, of course, to the, they're attracted by fruits and things like that. So we would not want to continue causing extra problems. It is a hope to replant another tree, but in a different position. I think I located a tree at the northwest corner there in the proposed site plan.
Okay, no, it's fair enough. You would like to have a bigger rectangular deck.
Yeah, it's more usable.
Understandable.
Right.
Yeah. Staff, I wonder is it possible when we have the applicants that we can bring them in temporarily as panelists so we can actually see them?
That would actually be something we would have to confer with our city clerk on that. She's kind of set parameters around who gets upgraded to panelist status, but that's something we can discuss with her outside of the meeting.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I'll email you about that too. Thanks. I don't have any more questions. Oh, except for staff, I suppose these additional documents were they the supporting documents, were they sent to us yet, or?
They haven't been sent, but they can. They were provided to us by the applicant as part of her presentation to the commission for this evening.
I see. Yeah, I would love to get those.
I'm okay. Mm-hmm.
Commissioner Donaldson?
I have one other small question. We don't normally pay any attention to color and everything but you have talked about color. And so it looks to me like you're planning on painting the old house and the new addition, repainting the old part and when you put a new paint on the new addition. Is that correct?
That is correct. As I understood from my neighbors, this house has probably been the same color since like the early 90s. I think it's time. It deserves a new, not so much a change in color, but it deserves a new skin. It deserves some maintenance.
Yeah, and you haven't decided on a color yet. Mm-hmm.
Well, we do very much appreciate. So we have been. I've been envying the color up the street from us, mid-block on the east side between on Pomona, between Solano and Marin, and I want to say it's like, I don't know, 10:30 something. It's a lovely blue color, which I fail to replicate digitally. Okay. And they have it done and it is so nice.
Okay.
I even want to just leave a note for the homeowner to ask like what they used.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that's good. Thank you. Mm-hmm.
Thanks.
I also just had a couple of questions for the architect while you're still on the line here before we move to public comment. Two comments in particular. One, just, looking at this addition on sort of an existing sort of Spanish Revival style house, one of the standards that we have to meet in our approval tonight for additions, especially those that are seeking the exceptional design, is that from the design guidelines, the direction is that addition should either be well integrated into the existing architectural home, so it looks like it's sort of original, or well-designed, well-proportioned, and complementary addition. And I'm just wondering if you can kind of talk through your choice of sort of the use of hardy board wood siding versus sort of the plaster of the original house, the fiberglass windows versus the wood windows, sort of a contemporary roof form, no terracotta detailing, like how, if you can kind of describe to us how you feel you meet the standard of it being sort of a well-proportioned and complementary addition, given that it's a pretty dramatically different architectural style than the existing home, is sort of question one. And then just might as well get both the questions out so you can answer together. And then the second, for ones with exceptional design, we were also supposed to include a landscape plan. And although there is sort of a drawing in the plan of some landscaping, it doesn't really look like it's a landscape plan per se. It looks like it's probably replicating a couple of the plants that are already on the site. So I was hoping you could just talk through us sort of what your plan was on the landscaping front. Did you engage a landscape architect? if you can kind of walk through what the vision was for the landscape plan that you've provided to date, that would be helpful. Thank you.
Yeah. So to address the style issue, when we first moved in at the fall of 2016, our neighbors down the street, I had shown their house at the blue house. I think they're 1054 or 46 or something like that, with the gable roof at the second level and the 1042 Pomona gable roof on the second level, and then the asymmetrical roof at the lower level. I liked very much the asymmetrical roof. And then looking at my neighbor directly next to us, they have a gable roof. So I kind of put those two together. And the reason why it's sitting on top, and I realize it may be a departure from the Spanish Revival. So in thinking about that, I wanted to, while I do very much appreciate the Spanish Revival stock, ever since we've been thinking about this, especially within the last year, we've been walking around the neighborhood and looking at what everybody has been doing. I did not feel comfortable replicating something that was done 100 years ago. My house was built in, I think, 1926 or 1928. It is going on 100 years. And then I was questioning whether, by the time I pop on the gable roof and then on the Spanish Revival houses around the neighborhood, when they have a gable roof, they may finish out with a Spanish terracotta clay barrel tile on the edge trim, or maybe it's on the section, so you see the barrel in section. But then I began to question whether Spanish Revival style really came down to just having clay tiles or some ornamental trim, and if that's all what it means, and if that's just copying details and things like that. I being in the 21st century, is that the proper way to respect Spanish Revival? As for using the siding, it definitely sets off what is new and what is old, but I would love to marry the two together with one single color. The siding also mimics, it's exactly the same actually as my direct neighbor to the north. So I feel like I'm in line with them, playing nice, trying to harmonize with my neighbors. As far as the windows are concerned, I'm not sure if it's clear or maybe I left it off as a note, but the fiberglass is the way the extrusions are manufactured at the factory, and that they will not, I don't think, I take that back. I don't think that they are faced in wood, but that they will not end up looking plasticky, if that's the concern. I think Marvin sells a line of fiberglass windows, and I selected fiberglass because of the insulating qualities. And then as far as the landscape plan is concerned, there's not as much done on the front. We have some plants already in the front. At the front yard, we have a maple tree that's been there. It's not, I don't know how many years. I'm not an arborist, but it's very nice. It's very mature. And then we are installing artificial grass in the backyard for maintenance purposes. It's for being drought tolerant. We currently have a couple of bougainvillea that's beyond the railing, and which will probably be destroyed. So we'll replant that. And then I've also shown some vines where it says SP31 right under there. It would be nice to have crawl right like there. And then the tree, I realize, does not have a tag next to it. What does have a tag is next to SP45, and I don't remember what SP45 is, but there is a existing rosemary bush that bees love coming to. So we have to figure out what we would like to do about that, because it's a matter of trying to replant it somewhere else, put in a different plant that attracts bees, something like that. But the main idea, it's not a fancy driveway down, but we know we need to do something about maybe installing permeable pavers down the driveway, which needs to be refreshed. It's pretty broken up at the point. And then also to install the artificial grass in order to align with drought tolerant initiatives, I guess. Does that answer some of your question?
Yeah, thank you for that response. Oh, Commissioner Pilch, did you have a question as well?
Yeah, so that brings up a few more questions for me. Well, and first of all, rosemary can be easily replanted. Most species grow like weeds here. So,
oh yeah, ours is really gigantic.
Yeah, shouldn't be a problem. I forgot that when I was looking at the plans, I did notice that it seems to be that the oh, never mind. I don't want to ask that question anymore. But I do want to ask a question about the windows now that you mention it. So when you say fiberglass windows, can you tell me more about what your understanding about the composition of the windows? You know, for example, I know that clad windows, as I've installed, they're wood windows, but they have a aluminum clad on the outside for weather protection. Is the fiberglass windows that you speak of, it's all fiberglass, but is it made to look like wood? I know that some fiberglass extrusions have like a little fake wood
right
on them. What's your knowledge of these windows and what's your intention?
Christopher, would it be okay to go to A4.1? That would help me out.
Terry, are you using Marvin Integrities? Is that the line that you're?
It's not Integrity. I think it's under Marvin Modern, I want to say.
Sorry, what again, Terry?
A4.1, which is a door and window schedule that shows the jam and header details.
Got it. One moment.
And I'm all about creating shadow lines and relief. So for sure, these windows will be set back where they belong. So can we zoom in? Thank you, Christopher. I don't have a good copy of the text in front of me, so I'm going to depend on reading off the screen. I apologize. So essentially, the fiberglass. If you, I can see half of that. I don't know if everyone else can see the details. Okay, so the fiberglass assembly is essentially the way the extrusions are fabricated in the factory. Would it be is it a requirement to have window, like to have a wood trim?
No.
Not necessarily. I don't know. I don't think so. I'm just wondering, you know, since there is such a difference in styles here, I just want to know as much as possible about the style, the looking of the new edition, and that's why I ask.
Oh, you know what? And then I guess the troubling thing, not that I want to replicate this, but I have vinyl windows, unfortunately, on my lower level, on my first level, at my current level. So that's why they would be white, because the current windows are white and I need them to all talk to each other nicely. So I would be forced to pick a white finish no matter what. Because I can't have the upstairs look different from the downstairs. And the front windows in the current house may be wood, but every other replacement window around the house is not wood.
And you said you think they're, what you've looked at is Marvin Moderns or something like that?
I think that was the line I had seen.
Marvin Modern are fiberglass, sort of a high density fiberglass window.
Right. As a finish, you're saying?
It's a full fiberglass extrusion. It's not a cladding.
Right.
Got it.
It would end up, I think it would end up being a matte white look, which is basically what I have now for my current level.
Okay. All right. Thank you. That does it for my questions.
Any other questions for the architect while we still have her on the line? Otherwise, we'll go ahead to public comment. All right, seeing no other questions from commissioners, we'll go ahead and open it up for public comment. Chris, can you go ahead and open public comment up on this item?
Yes. So we have one hand raised. We have Jeremiah. Jeremiah, you have 3 minutes starting now. Jeremiah, you're muted. Okay.
Oh, thank you. Regarding the rooftop patio, obviously a fall risk is pretty much a high risk. I mean, it's how many feet high is that rooftop patio? I mean, it's obviously over 16, 20 feet. You know, is a spiral staircase, what are the stairs made out of? Is it some sort of metal to where there's grip? Some sort of small circles with, you know, kind of spiky for grip for shoes, or, you know, walking up and down those stairs. I would hate for it to be flat metal, you know, no diamond cut or anything. It should be safe to walk up and down those stairs. You know, you don't want anybody to slip and fall down those stairs. Also, I would suggest a fire extinguisher. Somewhere on the rooftop. I mean, I could just see people up there, rooftop patio, having a barbecue. Outdoor fire pit, something on the top.
Oh my God.
You know, I'll unmute myself again. The host keeps putting me on mute for some reason. You know, the tree, if you're planning on cutting it down, maybe can you do a study of, you know, any birds or any wildlife living in that tree, if possible? I know certain construction's not allowed between certain months of the year regarding bird nest living in tree. I forget what months that is. You guys keep muting me and I got to unmute myself. I don't know what host keeps pressing that button.
You're unmuted. We can hear you.
Thank you. Yeah, I keep having to press the button unmute for some reason. So yeah, just a couple safety things. You know, you don't want anybody to fall off the roof. You should have a fire extinguisher up there. You know, maybe an emergency phone up on the rooftop, you know, in case you can't get downstairs to call 911, there should be a telephone. And regarding the unit, is that unit a secondary ADU? Is it a separate entrance? Is that going to be a master bedroom? Is that master bedroom accessible through the interior of the building? And is a wheelchair accessible for?
Okay, time's up. There are no more speakers in the audience.
Okay, if there are no other members of the public wishing to speak, we'll go ahead and close public comment and turn it back to the Planning Commission for deliberations. Does anyone want to kick things off? Commissioner Donaldson?
Okay. Yeah, let's see. It is kind of an unusual project with juxtaposing the old and the new the way it does, but I like it. I'm pretty happy with it. I did have some questions, and they've all mostly been discussed. I did have a question about the windows, and I would like to see them recessed for some shadow lines. And it sounds like, based on the comments from the architect, that will happen. So I had concerns about the shininess of the staircase, and I'm pretty well satisfied that it can be a matted, low reflective area of metal. I'm happy to hear that the railing around the roof deck is likely to be cable. Those are really you really can see those very easily. They don't have much mass for them. I did refresh my memory about what our design review guidelines say about rooftop decks, because I know we've had a lot of discussions about them in the past. And a lot of the concerns are about looking into, about privacy concerns that they might raise and all of that. And it's interesting that we don't have any comments from nearby neighbors right now. It sounds like this applicant has worked, is knowledgeable with the neighbors and is certainly looking at the neighbors' properties in considering how to design her own improvements. I like that. I like that the old and the new have different materials. The stucco and the horizontal siding and some vertical siding. I think I like that a lot. To juxtapose the old and new, I think that works. So I'm really pretty fond of the project, and I can support it. I too had questions about the landscape plan. And I looked it over closely, and I wasn't very impressed with it. It certainly wouldn't pass muster from our former commissioner, Chris, who was a landscape architect. It looked like there were only 2 or 3 new plants proposed. There's that very large magnolia in the front yard, the street tree, that provides a lot of shade, and the front yard has a lawn area that looks pretty peaked to me. I would urge the applicant to really talk to a landscape architect about the front yard and what can be done to improve it, to fill it in, to get rid of the grass that is not going to grow very well in that shady area. The landscape plan does not appear to follow the bay-friendly guidelines that we cite in our design review guidelines. And I think that with some shade-tolerant bay-friendly plants from the bay-friendly list, you could do a lot better with the landscaping in the front yard, and I'd like to see that happen. But I'm not at the point where I say we should continue the item and make it depend on a landscape plan. I leave that up to staff or to have the architect work with staff to or work with a landscape architect to come up with something to improve the landscaping. I'm not fond of artificial grass, but it's in the backyard and it is drought tolerant, that's for sure. And it's not going to be seen by the public, and so I don't have any problem with it being back there. So all in all, I like the project, I support it, and I think it'll be a real nice addition to the street. And I suspect that the blue color she's looking at is going to be very nice and would really tie it all together. So those are my comments. Thank you. Mm-hmm.
Anyone like to go next?
Well, I'll go.
Okay, Commissioner McLeod.
Sure, I agree with Commissioner Donaldson's comments. You know, it really strikes a chord with me with the applicant talking about designing. What does it mean to design in the 21st century? You know, we're not just necessarily slavishly imitating styles of the past. I think it's, you know, appropriate to find our own style for our own time and place. The juxtaposition is a little jarring for me with the front elevations, but I think in reality, what you see on paper is a little different than what you perceive, you know, actually being there and seeing it in person. The tree screens the front edge of the house a little bit, the existing house, and the rest of the addition is set back pretty far. So in that sense, I don't mind the change of materials. Some way I would prefer to see the whole house become modern, like the one the applicant referred to down the street at, was it 1042 Pomona? But I realize that would be a lot of expense to redo the whole house, and I'm fine with the addition being a different material. I think it looks a little more jarring graphically, giving the horizontal lines on paper, where actually in reality it would be sort of gentler shadow lines and not quite such a contrast. Graphically, I think it's a bigger contrast than it would be with the same color paint and all that. And I don't mind the roof deck at all. I think it'd be a nice place to sit. I find the spiral stair to be somewhat sculptural, kind of an interesting addition in the back. And I agree 100% with Commissioner Donaldson's comments about the landscape plan. I think the front yard should be redone a little bit, should be improved, basically, not just left as is. And I would support either having the applicant bring a plan designed by a landscape architect or work with one to present to staff. I don't have any problem with the AstroTurf or artificial turf in the back. It's not my favorite material, but it is drought tolerant, and it is a very good play space. If you have little kids, it's a way to have a nice play space. What else? The windows, Marvin, fiberglass windows are excellent windows. I really don't have a problem with them. They are very flat though. The frame and the glass are very flush in the front. So in that sense, you're going to have, the applicant will have to set the whole window back to achieve the 2 inches. So it means recessing the window in the opening. And it doesn't mean just building something out along the edge of the wall. I think it means literally recessing the window 2 inches, because that front plane of the frame and the glass are very, very flat. But they are fine windows. Environmentally, they work fine. They're very energy efficient. And the colors are usually fine. You can pick whatever color you like. And I think it's perfectly appropriate to modernize this house and make it appropriate for more modern living. All these houses are quite cut up inside, so removing walls and making bigger interior spaces is, it's a good move. I mean, the only design thing, for me, it's kind of the way the stairway isolates the bathroom upstairs. I think I would configure it differently, but that's all internally. So I'll leave that up to the applicant to either rethink that or look at it. But it makes for a very long corridor, and the bathroom is isolated in the middle without any windows. I don't really like that as a design move, although I can't tell. No, there's no skylight, but it's right under the roof deck. But creating a bathroom with no windows for me is not ideal. Somehow I would push that to the rear and have the stairwell go up the other way and enter more central to the doorways in the hallway. But that's something that the applicant can work out on their own. Otherwise, I agree with Commissioner Donaldson. I can support the project. Thank you.
Commissioner Felch, go ahead.
Yeah, sure. I guess I'll go. So I was taken aback a little bit by this application, just because I have not seen an example like this. Well, I haven't been on the commission for some time, but I haven't seen an example like this around Albany. And I wondered if examples like this had come before the commission during the time that I have not been on the commission. What I have seen examples of where this is done badly, where back in the bad old days, whenever that was, some people put a second story box on top of a very beautiful first story house, and there's absolutely no architectural detail. It is literally just a box. That's not what this is, obviously. And mostly I've seen examples of additions where the architect has tried to replicate the architectural details of the first story. So I was wondering how the commission would handle this. I didn't quite know what to think. I'm going to defer to the other commissioners who think this is okay. I guess in some ways, as I looked at it a little bit more, especially with the renderings that the applicant gave us, it struck me that it could be perceived as kind of two different buildings. the details, the Spanish Revival details, you really only see in the very front of the house anyway. There's not much on the sides. They're pretty much flat walls. And then you kind of see it's almost like another building in the back. And looking at it that way is kind of interesting. It especially looks like a different building with the roof deck on top of it. I also love the idea of a roof deck. I'm a bit jealous of it, actually. I think it's a wonderful idea. You gain even more outdoor space with it. So if the other commissioners are fine with it, then I'm fine with it because I'm not the architect here. I would. One question I did not get to ask, which is not that important a question, is where the washer and dryer would go, because they do remove a wall to create the breakfast room in the new scheme. So I don't see where the washer and dryer go. I'll come back to that. I'm also not a fan of artificial grass, but if you want something that's as close to grass and not grass, then artificial grass is it. But if you didn't need an actual area, a play area, then I would suggest something more natural like bark mulch or something. But I'm not going to oppose that. I would agree that the landscaping in front, I would like to see better, a real landscaping design. So that this to treat the entire project as a whole, you're improving the rest of you're improving the structure. Might as well make sure the looking of the front is improved as well. And finally, as I was looking at the current street view, I am hoping that the electric meter is going to be moved to the side. I don't know. I wasn't sure if I saw that in the plans or not, but I would say that I would make that a condition of approval. That looks pretty ugly there. Other than that, those are my comments. Yes.
On the electrical box, we're really at the whim of PG&E. So if a condition is included, I think that's fine, but I think we have to capture it to recognize that this may not be something in our control. So we'd add some qualifying language, like to the best of the applicant's ability to work with PG&E. But we've had situations where PG&E just goes out and they say the box is going here, and we're at a bit of a loss.
Really? Okay. That would be unfortunate. But so a condition could be at least to attempt to negotiate with PG&E to move that box to the side. Okay, thank you. That's it for my comments.
And I was just going to chime in. The washer and dryer is on A1.1 between the bath and the study. So it is on the main floor relocated. It looks like a stacked washer and dryer.
Thank you.
Sure. Commissioner Momin.
Thank you. I like the overall plan arrangement and the overall massing. The taller mass setback from the street located in the middle of the structure is good. I'm okay with the new addition in contemporary style juxtaposed with the existing mission revival structure. The existing structure is somewhat subtle in terms of its architectural style. It is quite unassuming, and because it is low, I don't think having a contemporary structure right next to it would have any adverse impact on that. And hopefully it would be modernized in the near future, so that would not be a loss in terms of character of the street along the street. I think the roof deck is a smart design idea, coupled with the spiral staircase. It is very interesting, but I do think that it could have been better integrated with the roof. I think it looks kind of very ad hoc, floating above the roof. Maybe there could be some adjustment in the pitch of the roof. Maybe a part of the roof side slope could be made slightly steeper so that the guardrails could be concealed. That would make it it more safer, as well as it would be less cluttered. I understand the intent, owner's intent to externally connect the lower deck with the outer deck, but that has kind of necessitated this external spiral stair, and is an additional cost. It is up to the owner if they want to pay for that. But I'm just wondering why they did not think extending the interior stair right up to the roof and create a penthouse above that. And I think penthouses are exempting height limits, so that might have created a more protected access to the roof deck, and that could have also helped in concealing the roof deck in a better way. Then there is a small observation. Maybe the architect has already corrected that, but looks like there is not enough headroom in the spiral stair. It is completing like 2 loops within just 1 floor of 10 feet. So that is not enough for the minimum required headroom for a stair. So maybe, if that is done, then maybe the spiral stair would look less imposing, because that would have fewer risers and fewer loops.
Thanks. Does that wrap your comments, Commissioner Momin?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, great. I'll jump in and share a couple of my initial thoughts. I sort of had the same initial instinct as several of my commissioners on this, sort of questioning whether I felt like this was sort of meeting the bar of exceptional design and being sort of a complementary design. And just sort of for starters, I always look at this in a couple different buckets. First is sort of one of massing. I have no issue with the massing. I think the massing is definitely appropriate and contextual with the surrounding context, and the idea of an addition here, I think works fine. So it's sort of checked that box for me. And then goes to sort of the architectural design review on this. And I absolutely agree. I believe very strongly that we should be designing for time and place. It doesn't mean if somebody is really heart set on doing an integrated design that I'd vote against it. Certainly, we've seen plenty of really beautifully integrated, craftsman type homes and that sort of thing. But I'm very supportive of people designing for 2021 and having it be sort of a contemporary interpretation of the building that's there, and having it be contextual. I am still a little concerned that it's not really contextual, like meeting the design guideline for, if you're not going to have it be integrated, it needs to really be contextual. I'm really trying to find the connections and the correlation between the old and the new, and where there's sort of that nod of this is part of one whole, not 2 totally separate boxes placed sort of on top of each other. With that said, I think I can get there on this, but I'm just sort of talking through some of my thought process on this. And I do think the windows play a big part of it. To me, I think the windows, really what it comes down to me is like devil is very much in the detail when it comes to windows and window applications, and it can make a huge difference in terms of the execution of a building. As designed right now, at least in the plan set, with them being flat, not recessed, and having this really applied trim, to me, it gives very much sort of like a sort of suburban-y new construction type feel with that tacked on trim and the lack of a recess. I do think removing that trim and really designing a contemporary window, and I think this is typically how the Marvin modern windows are designed, is with a really, really gracious recess, so that you're really playing this in a very contemporary, that it's really speaking to a contemporary design with a deep recess without this sort of tacked on faux trim around the side of it. And I think if those moves were made, and likely there'll need to be some changes to the design of the walls a bit, because I know this is sort of, especially on the front, there's a little bit of a bay window, and I'm not sure if there's the depth in there to play, but I would be fine with those details being worked out. But to me, it's a 2-inch minimum. I actually think for a really successful contemporary window design, you're looking closer to a 4-inch reveal for you to really get those deep shadow lines without a trim application and really like turning those corners for a deep window recess. And I think looking at doing some sort of play like that would make a big improvement on that. Again, I don't think I need to be voting for a continuance in order to get that. I would be comfortable having that worked out, but I do have some concerns about the applied hardy board trim relative to sort of the adjacency of these fiberglass windows. I think the combination of that is not going to look like a sort of really successful sort of gracious contemporary design. So that would be sort of an ask that I would have on the window front. As it relates to the roof deck, I very much agree with Commissioner Momin's comments about the roof deck integration. I do think an internal stair and penthouse or some sort of integrated access would be a more sort of graceful design on the roof deck. I have no issue in concept with the roof deck. We've had a lot of decks come lately, and I'm a big supportive of people being able to sort of live in their outdoor spaces. The spiral stair was the other thing that was pretty jarring to me. And I was actually very surprised that we didn't have any neighbor comments about the spiral stair back there. I did appreciate Commissioner McLeod's comment about it feeling very sculptural. And so I'm trying to sort of look at it from that perspective of, could it be designed in sort of a sculptural way? But oftentimes those spiral staircases to me feel very industrial. They make me feel of sort of like a Soma loft in San Francisco type feel, rather than sort of the lower scale residential character of the neighborhoods. Again, with that said, I'm probably not going to fall on my sword over that if other commissioners are fine with it as proposed, but I do feel like they could have tucked it around the corner, maybe screened it a little bit more from their neighbor, or done an internal stair. I know space is tight in these homes, and there might not have been the room to run another stair tread up as an interior stair, but it does still feel very tacked on at the back and a little imposing. Again, I think in the grand scheme of things, not as big of an ordeal, but again, we are sort of given this sort of standard of exceptional design, and those are a couple things that kind of I wouldn't have as much of an issue with if we weren't at the exceptional design stage, but because we're asked to do it, these are the types of things that come to the top of the sort of top of the list for me. And then as well, the landscaping plan, to me, it doesn't really seem as much of a landscaping plan, but more of an existing planting plan of sort of what's there. And so I would very much, for me to be supportive of this project, I would need us to include a condition of approval that they engage a landscape architect and do a landscape architecture plan. Again, channeling our former Commissioner Kent on this one. We always relied on him to work through those details, but that is part of the standard for exceptional design. And I don't think this quite hits the mark on that front. But again, I think that's something that can be a condition of approval and completed successfully, just working with staff after the hearing. So that's where I am right now. I know that's a little bit of sort of some potential modifications. I don't know how that aligns with everyone else's comments on this, or if we have a motion maker who feels like they can pull it together and get enough votes here, but those are my initial thoughts on the design. Commissioner McLeod?
Ian,
you're on mute.
Muted.
Yeah, when I'm looking at the upper floor plan, just a couple of comments. The front windows and one of the side windows are actually projecting a bit, and there's plenty of room in that to pull the windows back a little bit. It's the side windows and the rear windows that have the other trim detail. And I think the applicant already agreed to recess those at least the 2 inches. 4 inches starts getting as thick as the wall, so that gets a little problematic unless they're doing, 6-inch walls. But I think the applicant's willing to do that. And the spiral staircase, I don't think it's drawn correctly either, so it makes it look heavier and thicker and bigger. I agree, it doesn't look like it has the right head height. I think in actuality it would have fewer spirals. So, I'm prepared to support the project, and I could make a motion if others would be willing to go with it.
Sure.
Let's see. I would move that we approve item 6-1, PA 20-068, design review for 2-level addition at 1028 Pomona Avenue, with the requirement that the applicant work with a landscape architect to prepare a site plan for the front yard, recess the windows 2 inches, and that would be it. That would be my motion.
Would you take as a friendly amendment an attempt to work with PG&E to move the electric metering box?
Yeah, I do appreciate Ann's comment that it's very difficult to find another spot for that. I was looking at it there. It would probably be pretty hard because the chimney is in the way of moving it back on the side.
I have some information on that from, I guess it's not real personal experience, but I've been told by an electrician in a similar situation that PG&E would have required bollards or a 3-foot separation from a driveway to move the meter to the side. So I think that would seriously disrupt the parking and wouldn't work. I'm pretty sure that is going to be PG&E's policy. Yeah.
There is another option which PG&E does allow homeowners to build a box around the meter, which would be another solution to,
Yes.
And they have specific requirements for how that's to be built, but that could also be something.
The other thing is landscaping. It's a perfect place for bushy bush that provides a cover, a screening when you're walking down the sidewalk from it. So.
Well, right, with the caveat that PG&E requires a 3-foot working space in front of the meter. So you have to be a little bit cognizant of that.
You need some space.
So would you take a friendly amendment to add the screen if not able to move?
Yeah, I think that would be fine.
Okay. Then with that motion, do we have a second on that motion?
I'm fine with it. I'll be happy to second. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Then on that motion and on that second, we'll call the vote. Commissioner Donaldson?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Commissioner McLeod?
Yes.
Commissioner Moman?
Yes.
Commissioner Pilch?
Yes.
And I vote yes as well. So that vote will pass 5-0. And to the applicant, do please leave up the story poles if weather permits, I suppose, through the 14-day appeal period as best as can here. And that finishes out item 6 on our agenda. This takes us on to item 7 on our agenda, which is new business. And if staff's okay with this, maybe we can call items 7-1 and 7-2 together. And these are resolutions of appreciation for former commissioners Chris Kent and Megan Jennings.
Yes, so as everyone is aware, the Commissioner Jennings and Commissioner Kent did multiple terms on the Planning and Zoning Commission. Commissioner Jennings had decided not to reapply. Commissioner Kent is actually now on our Parks, Rec, and Open Space Commission. So the city is still benefiting from his landscape and tree expertise, just in a different capacity. So we drafted these resolutions of appreciation, although we're certainly happy to include any other whereases that you think might be appropriate or fitting to commemorate their service and expertise on the commission. And once we have that, we can send it around for electronic signature and then get that to Commissioner Jennings and Commissioner Kent.
I thought the resolutions were fine. Mm-hmm.
And why don't we really quick, we should open this up for public comment. Chris, is there any member of public comment waiting to speak?
No, I don't see any hands up for public. Okay, never mind, I lied. We have Jeremiah for public comments. Jeremiah, you have, hold on one moment. You have 3 minutes to speak starting now.
Hi, thank you all. Every commissioner up there, I just want to also thank you for your service to the city. You all have very good viewpoints, far more experience than I have. I'm just a public commenter. And these two, I just want to give a shout out, Chris Kent and Megan Jennings. I do remember them being on the commission. I attended these meetings, and, thank you for your service being on this commission for 2 years and more than 2 years. I know it takes a lot of effort, and I know I had a lot of questions in my public comment. I just really thank everybody for taking the time with me to learn, what's going on with the city and planning and zoning. So Chris Kent, you did a great job, and Megan Jennings, wonderful job, and thank you so much. I hope they're here tonight listening in on this meeting, and I just want to say thank you all for being on these commissions. Nick Pilch, Liz Waddy, you're both great role models for the city. And Liz, you're doing such a good job being chair, and you're very on point with a lot of things. And I'm learning from you, to tell you the truth. And everybody's doing a good job. And these two commissioners, just outstanding. So I just want to say thank you for everybody. That's all.
Thanks, Jeremiah. Chris, do we have any additional public comment?
There are no more speakers.
Okay, then with that, we'll go ahead and close public comment and turn it back to the commissioners. And I'm happy to jump in if no one else is jumping up, but I think these are great. I was really excited to see these agendized tonight. It was such a pleasure working side by side with Chris and Megan. I certainly learned a lot from them as well. And I very much remember my first hearing joining them, and just honestly being very impressed by the level of professionalism and knowledge that they brought to the commission. So sad to see them go. I know this is a huge time commitment, so excited to see that Chris is going to be using his immense skill set to still better Albany. And I know I'm sad to see Megan go, but I know she's got a lot on her plate at this point right now. So I'm really excited that we're able to at least give them a resolution sort of commendation for their service.
Yep.
Anyone else? Commissioner McLeod?
Yeah, I would just like to add to that I've appreciated serving with them. It's been an honor serving with them, and that I've appreciated all their comments and all their efforts, not just in their areas of expertise per se, but across the board in all aspects of their service and all aspects of their commentary and decision making. Been very impressed with them and with the entire board, and with our current board as well. So I think we were in good hands, and I think we're in good hands moving forward. It was an excellent board. I think we had a very good range of expertise and areas covered, and I'm going to miss Chris's landscape knowledge and wisdom, and I will certainly miss Megan's attention for legal detail when reviewing documents. I could never approach that level of detail, or Chris Kent's level of knowledge about plants. So I've appreciated working with them both, and wish them well in their future endeavors.
I can't add much more than that. I think we've said it all. I'm completely agree with the comments that both of you made, and it was a very strong commission we had the last 4 years, and everyone brought their own little set of special talents to the table, which really enriched the whole experience, I think. So I'm very appreciative of their work, and their level of contribution was very strong. So I'd be happy to move approval of the resolutions if that's what's on the table now. I think so. Mm-hmm.
Great. Do we have a second on that motion?
I'll second.
Okay, second by Commissioner McLeod. Then on that motion, we will call the vote. Commissioner Donaldson?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Commissioner McLeod?
Yes.
Commissioner Momin?
Yes.
Commissioner Pilch?
Yes.
I vote yes as well. So those resolutions are passed unanimously, 5-0. With that, we will move along on our agenda here, wrapping up. Item 8, announcements, communication, discussion. It looks like there are none. Confirming no updates. Great. With that, just next meeting, item 9 here, and correction to the agenda. Next meeting will actually be March 10th, or is there?
February 24th.
Oh, February 24th.
February
Okay.
24th. Okay.
Correction. Great. So the next meeting will be February 24th, same time, same Zoom channel.
Okay.
Great. With that, then we're adjourned. Thank you, everyone.
All right. Well, thank you.
Thank you all.
Everyone.
Right.
Good night.
Have a good evening.
Great.
Right.